What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. How's everybody doing? I hope you're doing very well. I'm all out of coffee. That's not a good thing. Listen, I want to talk to you today about Enhancement Shaman. We're going to talk about basically the physical Enhancement Shaman build. So we're here to talk about quite possibly the simplest version of all the builds that I think you could run for Enhancement Shaman in Dragonflight. And it's something that we haven't really been able to run that well in Shadowlands or in even the expansions before that. It's kind of, it is just incredibly simple, boils down to some of the simplest things that Enhancement Shaman wants to do, but it's been refined in Dragonflight, and it's been sort of brought into like the modern era. And I think it's really, really cool. So what am I talking about? Well, I think there's some pretty fundamental builds that have come out for Enhancement Shaman that work really well. So number one, there's the Fire build. You can take Lava Lash and Molten, and then you take Fire Nova over here, Hot Hand, Primal Lava Actuators, Lashing Flames. You take this whole row, and then you pivot over to Primordial Wave over here, and that's like your Fire build. There's the Hailstorm variant, which is where you take these two and then you pivot off to Hailstorm here. You get Ice Strike and Swirling Maelstrom. Make sure you have this trio right here. And this helps you generate extra Maelstrom weapon stacks, and it helps you to sort of sprinkle in some ice damage, essentially frost damage. You can still take Hot Hand if you want to, and it might actually be even a good idea to take this other row down here. But then you're pivoting over to Primordial Wave, and you're not taking some of these ones in the middle, but you've kind of got this more consistent damage profile with Hailstorm. And if you're running something like Elemental Spirits, which of course has been changed, it now gives you 15% to different elements. You're covering more of your bases because you've got the Frost base covered with your Frost Shocks doing double damage with Ice Strike and cleaving with Hailstorm, so lots of frost damage. Then you have all the fire stuff that you're taking, which covers the Fire Dog, and then of course you have lightning damage from Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning, which covers the lightning. So that is like the best possible scenario for running an Elemental Spirits build, in my opinion. That's build number 2. It's kind of the Fire and Ice build. Build number 3, I would posit, is this build that I'm going to show you now, and it focuses a little bit on Wind Fury over here, and then it focuses almost entirely on Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning, and Storm Strike. And it doesn't actually pivot into deeply rooted elements. This is something I might try with this build. This is somewhere you could go with it. But the main capstone idea is that you come down and get Alpha Wolf with your Witch Doctor Wolf Bones and Feral Spirits. You're getting this whole column here. And then you're doubling up on both Elemental Assault, which gives you Storm Strike damage and gives you a guaranteed chance to generate Maelstrom weapon stacks, which is important. And you're getting Legacy of the Frost Witch, which increases all your physical damage by 25%. So this is kind of the Legacy of the Frost Witch build. That's kind of what I think I would want to call it. The reason that this is so strong is because you get 25% more bonus physical damage for 5 seconds, and you can almost maintain the uptime on this buff for an enormous amount of time while you're fighting. So this has 60% uptime on Legacy of the Frost Witch for me, which is a very long time. That's a lot of uptime on something. I know it's not 100%, but it is actually a lot. If you know how Mythic Plus Dungeons work in particular, 60% uptime on something is a lot. So what is going on with this build? Well, what you're going to do primarily is summon your wolves. They're going to do lots of damage with Alpha Wolf, which is actually this thing called Spirit Bomb. That's the Alpha Wolf proc that they're getting. It was my second highest damage at 13.5%. Just the Alpha Wolf talent down here. That was that damage. So that's pretty insane. You're basically going to be rotating between Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning, and Storm Strike. Those are your 3 abilities that you're casting. You're simply maintaining your Flame Shocks with Lava Lash. Every like 13 seconds, you're going to press Lava Lash to refresh all of your Flame Shocks. That's all you're doing with that. The rest of the time, you're pressing Storm Strike, Crash Lightning, and Chain Lightning. And what you're trying to make sure you do is to build up to 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon as many times as you can, and then cast your Chain Lightning. That will, number 1, guarantee that your Chain Lightning does this much damage up here at the top. Number 2, it's going to proc Legacy of the Frost Witch for you, which says consuming 10 stacks of the Maelstrom Weapon resets the cooldown on Storm Strike, increases the damage of your physical abilities by 25%, which includes Wind Fury and Storm Strike itself. Storm Strike does physical damage. For those of you guys who didn't know. Kind of sounds like it should do lightning damage. It doesn't. It does physical damage. So this is how the build works. You just go through your simple rotation. You're maintaining Flame Shocks. You're doing Crash Lightning, Storm Strike. As many times as you can Storm Strike, you get to 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, and you cast Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning has now obviously been buffed, and so is Crash Lightning. This is the buffed version of Crash Lightning that has a longer cooldown now. Last week, this had a shorter cooldown, didn't do as much damage. This is the new version. So it does way more upfront damage. It's buffed by 40% because of Crashing Storms, but it does 3,500 nature damage to all enemies in front of me. That's really good damage. My Storm Strike does about 10,000 damage to one target, but Crash Lightning will now do 3,500 to all enemies in front of me. That adds up really quickly. As soon as you have 3 enemies or more, you're doing more damage than even a Storm Strike. So that is a huge amount of damage. And again, you're trying to get as many Crash Lightnings out and as many Chain Lightnings out as possible, and you do that through Gathering Storms. This buffs the damage of Storm Strike, which makes it hit really hard. And then they just baked that in. I forgot about that. They actually just baked in the interaction that I'm thinking of right now, which is the Chain Lightning interaction. Let me go over to that really quickly. They got it. Here it is. So each target hit by Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown of Crash Lightning. I'm sorry that I'm blanking on this, but last week, this is baked into Chain Lightning in Shadowlands. It was not baked into Chain Lightning last week. It was removed. And this week, they brought it back, and they've said, you know what, we're going to bake this right in. Each target hit by Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown on Crash Lightning. That's more significant now because Crash Lightning does so much more damage now. It does so much damage. So this is kind of how the build works, and then everything is funneling into Storm Strike damage. You can see here, obviously, Gathering Storms buff Storm Strike damage. Storm Flurry, this is currently completely bugged. Don't look at this. This says that Storm Strike has a 2% chance to do 1,000% more damage. That's not true. What I think this actually does, and they're going to fix the tooltip on this next week, I'm sure. What I think this actually is you need to take the 1-0 from the 1,000 and bring it to the 2. What I think this is trying to say is Storm Strike has a 20% chance to deal an additional 100% of its normal damage. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It used to be 25% chance to deal 50% more damage. Now I think they're saying it's going to be a 20% chance to do 100% more damage because it's not a 2% chance to deal with that. That's just not what's going to be happening. But you're going to take this. You're going to take Storm's Wrath, which increases the chance that you'll get Stormbringer, which Stormbringer is the proc, of course, that gets you your Storm Strike back and makes it do more damage. So it's all about Storm Strike, and it's all about pushing as quickly as you can until you get 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, and then you press Chain Lightning. Ice Strike is simply an extra talent that I kind of had left over, but what they did now is they made it baked into Swirling Maelstrom and Crash Lightning now, which is really, really cool. So if you read Crash Lightning, they've buffed it this week to say, you electrocute all enemies in front of you and enhances your weapons for 12 seconds, causes Storm Strike, Ice Strike, and Lava Lash to also cleave all targets in front of you. So I'm taking Ice Strike because it almost does 10,000 damage, and I'm getting it now to cleave with Crash Lightning. So that adds a significant portion of damage to this. And again, Ice Strike doesn't do a lot of damage on its own, but it's the extra bonus Crash Lightning here. This Crash Lightning, this 7% Crash Lightning right here, this is what Ice Strike is proccing. This is what Storm Strike is proccing. This is what Lava Lash is proccing when I press it. Okay? So it's a simple build. We don't even have Wind Fury Totem. I don't care. I don't think Wind Fury Totem actually provides that much bonus at all. I can only get 4 targets here, guys, and I really apologize for that. I'm not able to get the Turnip because this is like a brand new level 70 fresh character and doesn't have any of my toys. I've tried getting it. It just isn't there, unfortunately. So I would love to have it, but I can't put it down. So we have 4 targets. We're stuck with 4 targets. That's okay. Here's what I'm going to show you. This is the gameplay loop of it. It's very simple, but I think it's very powerful. I literally just did a testing on this, and I did 43k overall over the course of 2.5 minutes of fighting. So I'm going to pop Lust just so we can make this look a little bit fairer, because I only have 10% freaking haste right now. It's really awful. We're going to start with Flame Shock Lava Lash after our Wolves, because we got to get that buff rolling right away. And then we're just going to do Crash Lightning, Storm Strike, and we're looking for the 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon for the Chain Lightning, okay? It's not that complicated. So here we go. Lust, and we go Flame Shock. We're going to spread it. Here we go. Crash Lightning. We have 10 stacks right now. There's a Chain Lightning. Back to Storm Strike again. I'm going to Ice Strike just to get that. There we go. We got up to 10 again. Crash Lightning. I'm going to spread this again. Here we go. We're just continuing to reset the cooldown on our Storm Strike. That's what we're doing, which is awesome. Going to build some more stacks here. Let's get up to 10. There's 10. Okay, but perfect. Reset the cooldown on Storm Strike. Press my Frost Shock here. My wolves are back. I forgot to cast them. I'm really sorry about that. I need to remember the wolves because they come back so quickly. It's kind of crazy. 10 stacks again. We're going to press it again. We're slowing down a little bit here, but that's okay. You can see our damage, guys, is pretty substantial. Now, we're going to slow down a significant amount because we only have 10% haste, but that's okay. It's fine. We got the legacy buff again. We're looking for that legacy buff. For some reason, I think the legacy buff is proccing even when I'm not getting up to 10 stacks. So that might be a bug, but I'm back to 10 stacks there. There's Chain Lightning. There we go. Wolves are back. Our haste is absolutely plummeted here, as you can feel, but that's just the way that early expansions kind of go like this. So let's build up to 10 more stacks here. Here we go. We're back to 10. Chain Lightning resets Storm Strike, and we're pressing Storm Strike again. Building back up to 10 once again. Do Sundering into Ice Strike. That should get us there. There we go. We're there. Boom. Spread our Flame Shocks again. Okay, we keep going. Cast my... The Frost Shock will be really, really good for single target damage. So if you're in a dungeon, this will be really helpful because on bosses, you're going to want to be pressing that Frost Shock because it's getting double damage from my Ice Strike, right? So very important to remember that. Okay, here we go. We're going to press Storm Strike, and then we're going to reset it with Chain Lightning. Okay, Storm Strike again after Crash Lightning. Always want to press Crash Lightning because it does so much damage now. It's kind of insane how much damage it does. Crash Lightning. Here we go. Frost Shock. Sundering. Okay. There we go. We're back to 10. We're going to reset Storm Strike again. So this is kind of that cadence where you're resetting Storm Strike. You're building up to 10. We're going to cast it again. We're still sticking around 40k DPS, as you can see. And if I had any more haste at all, this build would feel absolutely incredible. But I'm only hitting 4 targets, and we're doing 40k sustained AoE damage here. So it's actually incredibly substantial. The amount of damage that these buttons are pumping out is crazy. And I'm not doing anything special, you know? I'm just pressing Crash Lightning into Storm Strike. You know, I'm not pressing that into Chain Lightning. That's the whole build right there, guys. So let's go over here. Let's check out the damage. You can see once again where the damage is coming from. It's Chain Lightning. It's Crash Lightning. Look how much damage Crash Lightning is doing. This is the upfront hit of Crash Lightning. This is the extra bonus splash that I'm getting from... Let me make this a little bit bigger. This is the bonus splash that I'm getting from Lava Lash, from Ice Strike, and from Storm Strike. And then this is Spirit Bomb is the Wolves. I did not summon my Wolves nearly enough. You can see my 41% uptime on my Wolves. So I could have had way more uptime on the Wolves. I was just not playing it very well. That's honestly the truth there. Here's the bottom line with this build. Early in a Dragonflight expansion like this, when you hit level 70, you're going to have about 10% haste when you get there. It's going to feel really awful. It's not going to be fun. You're going to work your way up to getting more haste. This build doesn't actually need that much haste. It just needs like maybe 10% more. If you get to 20% haste, this would feel so good to play, and it would be pumping so much damage. So this is mostly focused on the new kind of abilities that have come in here, right? So you can see we've got... Let me perk that to 1. There we go. This is the new kind of combo that Blizzard's given us. This big buff to Crash Lightning. This is the main source of your damage now. As you can see, it's accounting for 24% of our damage. It's just under Chain Lightning. So what's doing all your damage here is big hits of Crash Lightning. You're cleaving with your other abilities, and then you're getting 10 stacks of Maelstrom Weapon, and you're pressing Chain Lightning. And Chain Lightning is doing so much damage. Number 1, it bounces to extra targets now because of Crashing Storms, and I'm actually losing value here. There's a 5th target that I'm not hitting because I can't put my turnip down. So I'm only hitting 4 targets. Imagine if you had a 6-target cleave with this build, or imagine if you had 10-target cleave. You'd be smashing everybody with Crash Lightning, and then you'd be smashing them with your splash damage from Lava Lash, from Storm Strike, from Ice Strike. That would all be splashing to all those targets. You'd be hitting 5 targets with your Chain Lightning, which would be actually cooling down Crash Lightning even more than it was now. So I'm not getting the Chain Lightning damage value, and I'm not getting the cooldown reduction on Crash Lightning. I'm missing 1 second of cooldown reduction from Chain Lightning. So this build actually performs incredibly well right now, and I think we're missing, like, I don't have enough targets to really make it shine. That's what I'm trying to say. I did try to queue for a dungeon a few minutes ago, guys, and the queue was like about 45 minutes long. I wasn't able to get into one tonight, so unfortunately, that's just the way it's going to be. But I think this build is really interesting, and I do think that there's some wiggle room with this build. Number one, you could take a point out of Elemental Assault. I don't think you can take a point out of Legacy. I think you really do need to leave Legacy. But maybe you take 1 point out of Legacy, in which case you could either do that, or you could take 1 out of LE Assault, and you could pivot into Deeply Rooted Elements. And that would give you a chance, once again, to proc Ascendance, which is going to do 20,000 nature damage, by the way, on proc. And it's also going to give you Wind Strike, which does physical damage. So I think if you wanted to make this pivot to get such a powerful talent, I think you might want to take 1 point out of Elemental Assault. Then your Storm Strike damage would go down a little bit, and your chance to proc Maelstrom Weapon would also go down a little bit, but that's okay, because you're getting such a powerful buff in the meantime. So this is something I'm going to fiddle around with this week and see what I think, how I feel about that, because I don't think it's going to be necessarily very good at the beginning of an expansion because you only have 10% haste. As you get more haste, though, as you're able to press Storm Strike more often, you're able to proc Deeply Rooted more often. But that's the build, guys. This is the Legacy of the Frost Witch physical lightning build that's going on here. It's, I would call it probably the lightning build. That's probably a better way to call it, because even though we're taking Alpha Wolf and getting a ton of extra damage out of those wolves, we're also mostly doing lightning damage because it's Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning, Storm Strike. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think about a physical/lightning build coming in as being potentially a third build that you could do on Enhancement Shaman? There's a fire build, there's kind of a fire and ice build, and I think there's going to be this lightning build. And what do you guys think about that? I'm really curious what you think in the comments down below, so let me know. If you like these kinds of videos, guys, drop a like and subscribe. I will be pumping out as many Dragonflight videos as I can, but it really helps if you support the channel by liking and subscribing on the videos. I would really appreciate that very much. Thank you guys once again. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next one.